This video is going to spoil some pretty major plot points, but the plot isn't really the point of this game. This is truly a title you have to play to experience, so now's your chance to go play it blind, if that's what you want to do. Otherwise, here we go. I spent a long time getting to know the sand in Disco Elysium. Specifically, I spent a long time scouring the coast, searching around the remains of dilapidated settlements weathered by time and conflict for a bug. Not even a real bug, a mythical one, a cryptid. The Insulindian phasmid, a creature only known to exist in campfire stories. This wasn't a small diversion. The whole time, my detective partner, Kim, was sure to let me know how colossal a waste of time this was. And given everything else happening in the game, he was probably right. I agreed. And yet, for reasons I still don't fully understand, I chose to do this. Disco Elysium, if you don't know, is a dense game. It's a murder mystery with international stakes. Civil war seems all but inevitable. The setting is an ideological time bomb waiting to blow, fuse ignited by the still smoldering embers of history. And, as the detective on the case, you're prodding at it the whole time. Beyond that, it's a game with a lot to say about reality, too. I've been hearing for years that this is a political masterpiece, a game with 2 Bibles worth of philosophy embedded in it. I remember when it first came out, it seemed nobody could make their video essay about it fast enough. It seemed to be the domain of MFAs and professional lore masters, a title purpose-built for overthinking, which, I will not lie, sort of kept me at arm's length. I don't know, it seemed like a title better handled by the experts. Over the years, I've enjoyed reading and hearing all they've had to say about it. I've learned things about history, philosophy, geopolitics just from watching other people analyze this game. So, imagine my surprise when I finally get around to playing it and I find myself singing karaoke to a bored hotel audience, embarrassing myself trying to talk fine art with a lorry driver, laboring over the life-altering decision whether to shave my mutton chops, and, of course, spending a truly ludicrous amount of time chasing bugs. Call me crazy, but somehow this game doesn't feel like a college dissertation to me. Outside of the political intrigue, the existential philosophy, the literal volumes of world building, Disco Elysium is deeply, movingly unremarkable. So, for a change, that's the side of the game I want to show you. The quotidian, the side quests, the part you might never see when staring at the sheer scale of this masterpiece. The part where you walk the beach, looking for imaginary bugs. Before we get into the actual video, I've got to show you something. We have made what I think is one of my favorite pieces of merch ever. Look at this. I won't say anything, just look at it. I am the Eldritch Horror. To anyone who's ever felt like an outsider, who's recognized how unconventional and untidy they are for the rest of the world, everyone who's noticed these things about themselves and found power in them, this is for you. Illustrated by the amazing Salamander King, this poster shines with beautiful foil and hangs on your wall at a healthy 16 by 20 inches. You can get it right now at thetailfoundry.com/store. A big thanks to everyone who does. Not only are you supporting the show, but, you're also encouraging really good art to be made and a really good message as well.
There's this giant ball there. And evil apes. And the evil apes are juking it out on the ball. You're one of them.
Harry Dubois is as new to the world of Disco Elysium as we are. Kind of. You start the game in a trashed hotel room with the worst hangover in human history. When you do miraculously come to, you find that your mind is a blank slate. No memory of where you are, who you are, what you are. The first things you learn are all very basic. You are, supposedly, a cop. You live and work in a city called Revachol. You have a bad history with alcohol, and it seems a bad history in general. Outside the hotel room is a dead body, which you were supposed to be investigating. As it tends to be in stories like this, Harry's amnesia is a great device for exposition. As he relearns about his world, we get to discover it, and you quickly find out just how much there is to discover. Revachol is not just the game's setting. It's a fulcrum, a place where a truly unbelievable amount of world history intersects. You can literally spend most of an evening in real time reading textbooks about it at the local library, but mostly it comes in a drip feed. Pieces of dialogue, half-remembered stories, evidence etched into the very bones of the city itself. At first, I remember feeling intimidated by the sheer scope of the world I was entering, its geopolitical machinery and social intricacies. That didn't last long, because right away, I ran into two old men playing shuffleboard in a bombed-out crater a few steps away from my hotel. It's not actually shuffleboard, it's this universe's legally distinct equivalent, but the picture is a familiar one. They pass the time here, cursing at each other, eating their lunches, playing their game, doing what old men do. One of them is a soldier, and he wants you to know it. He's still wearing the uniform of his long-dead army, and he still walks and speaks with the aggressive rigidity of a drill sergeant. His name is René. The other is much more at ease. He seems to have accepted whatever happened here and doesn't spend his time dwelling on the past. His name is Gaston. These two old men and their almost ritualistic bickering were my first window into what happened to the city of Revachol. René is quick to tell me about his own history. He told me how he proudly served the king of Revachol in a heroic last stand against the communist scum that overtook them. His former service to the crown is core to his self-image. He's still got the uniform on. He paints a romantic portrait of the monarchy, what he sees as some sort of golden age, when everything was right in the world, when everyone was in the right place, when Revachol was in its right place. I asked some more questions and began to poke holes in that portrait. Gradually, I learned how the valiant and immortal monarchy was taken down by, in his words, mad anarchist women who tore up all the social values he held so dear. How the kings that he valorizes were, to put it bluntly, coked out of their minds while they were supposed to be running the country. And, most embarrassingly of all, how the communist scum met their ultimate demise not at the hand of a heroic Revacholian patriot like himself, but by foreigners. Foreigners who succeeded at accomplishing what he could not. Gaston, René's stalwart shuffleboard partner, doesn't seem too bothered by any of this. He's constantly ribbing René for his absurd devotion to the long-dead monarchy and his old uniform. I wouldn't call him optimistic, but at the very least, he's forgiving of the shortcomings of the new world he's found himself in. He's accepted the state of things. His voice carries an implicit hope that one day his friend can accept them too. And so, here these two men sit, literally inside a scar of the past, arguing all day about what the past means. To be fair, there is a lot to argue about. The parallels to real-world history, what this implies for your investigation, the rights and wrongs of the political movements of the past. You could write an essay about it. You could write a whole book about it. You could make a whole game about it. But that's not what they did with Disco Elysium. In Disco Elysium, you get this history through listening to two old men arguing in the street. A reminder that history isn't a neat timeline. It isn't just a series of events in a book. History is the messy process of people remembering themselves and each other, trying to make sense of the past. René and Gaston's bickering doesn't just tell us about the history of Revachol, it tells us about their relationship to that history and how their position in it warps their perspectives. And I suppose that's what all historical accounts are, in a way, whether they come from an encyclopedia, an archive of documents, or the mouths of two old men. On the same beach where I was chasing bugs a few hours ago, I dragged myself and my astonishingly patient detective partner into another side quest. This one revolved around an abandoned church. Loitering outside it were a gang of young ravers trying to start a nightclub in the church. After deflating their dreams of starting up a drug-dealing side business inside that nightclub, I ultimately decided to help them get the thing off the ground. I figured dancing would be better than selling drugs. There was just one little complication. Someone was already using the church. This is Suna, a programmer who's taken up residence here as part of a strange research project. She's looking for the location of a 2-millimeter hole in the world. Apparently, this hole is in the rafters of the church, and it seems to absorb everything that it touches, including radio waves, which makes it nearly impossible to measure. So, I agreed to help her with her research. In exchange, she'd tolerate the teens and their nightclub. The journey she sent me on led me to her old game studio, which was destroyed by an inexplicable data loss incident. She believes it was caused by this 2-millimeter anomaly, and she's going to prove it. Turns out it's a good thing she's sharing space with these ravers, because when the critical moment arrives, their speakers provide the perfect medium to play back her research data. And when she does,
the driver of the speaker vibrates in the air and then stops. Plasterwork begins to crumble down the walls. In the silence, a low hum starts creeping up your spine. It's a song inside you, not in the speakers, not in the room. A great bass sigh in the basement of your mind. Slowly it builds until the air around you starts to vibrate. It's out there now, in the world.
Harry, possessed by some force beyond reason, seems to know what this sound means, and with full confidence, he says that it is the Pale. By this point in the game, I'd already learned a little bit about the Pale. It's a sort of hazy, entropic mist, a sea of cosmic nothingness separating the habitable areas of the world like so many islands. Normally, it is impossible to traverse. Even with modern technology, humans can only spend so long in it before losing their minds. And it's growing. It's a long way off, but eventually the Pale will swallow everything. Which is why it is, to put it mildly, concerning that there's a fragment of it here, above this church, right next to a city. This revelation could change everything. This is the biggest problem in the game, right? The end of the world? I thought that this was going to be the part where the game enters the real plot, that Kim and I would set everything aside to look into this impending apocalypse, find some way to stop it, or at least react to it, marshal the forces of the world to rally against it. Instead, the opposite happens.
It's hardcore!
I mean, look at where we are, what we're doing. We're building a nightclub, right under it. A nightclub. One thing I wasn't expecting was for the ravers to have a philosophical perspective on all of this. Turns out that they believe that political philosophy is outdated. Not just a particular political philosophy, but political philosophy as a concept. In their view, it fails to meet the challenges of the modern world. Their truth lies in the rave. To them, dancing isn't just an activity, it's a social practice, a genuine way of life. At first, their views seemed kind of incoherent, juvenile, driven by more than a few party drugs. But remember, this world, the world that millions have violently struggled over for centuries, will ultimately be devoured by the Pale. In that context, their outlook starts to make a little more sense. There are some genuinely challenging skill checks in this game. There's a lot to prepare for. But one of the hardest of them all? To set everything aside and bust a move in this church-turned-nightclub at the end of the world. It's a skill check that I failed the first time. But that's what save files are for. When I eventually succeeded...
With his reel-to-reel mixer blasting the anthem of a future that will never come, the young man observes your moves for a second.
This is not a moment I expected from Disco Elysium, but it is one that defines the game for me. The rave isn't an immature way to dodge the question of what to do about the end of the world. The way the game frames it, the rave is an answer to the question, possibly the only one that actually makes any sense. The rave rejects the idea that existence is some kind of grand political struggle. It suggests that there's no solving life, just living it. That all one can really do, perhaps all you're meant to do, is find the energy to dance while you still can. Most of the people of Revachol live just above the threshold of survival. They make homes in old furnace rooms, tents on the beach, but none of them walk the streets with a sign strapped to their back saying, "Please save me." Most of them are just trying to live quiet, dignified lives with the resources they have. At one point in the game, I came across one such citizen, an unassuming working-class woman. When I examined her, Harry got this sudden internal impression that she wasn't doing too well. So, following that lead, I asked if there was something wrong in her life. And she said, no. Harry's inner voice was mistaken. He'd assumed that just because of this woman's class, she must have needed his help. But she clearly doesn't need it. Kind of an odd diversion. I was confused as to why the game let me engage with this if there was no outcome, nothing I could do, but I decided to set it aside for the time being and get on with my investigation. Later on, I found myself at the beach. On the edge of the sand was a dilapidated pier that once housed a fish market. Exploring to the end of that pier reveals another dead body. A man who's bashed his head in on a bench. An empty vodka bottle lies next to him. A pack of still-warm chewing gum is rotting away in his mouth. Kim chimes in to note that this is a darkly familiar situation. You often see these two things next to dead drunks. The bottle and the chewing gum. They're trying to hide the smell. I pulled a library card from the man's pocket. In a day or so, Kim and I traced the name on the card to an apartment nearby. We opened the door to find a working woman inside. The one from before. The one who didn't need my help. The pieces all came together. There's a clear anti-capitalist narrative here. I can already imagine the in-game monologue, what it might sound like. Today, a family was stretched to their limits by the economic conditions of their life. The kind of conditions in which people's personal demons thrive. The kind of conditions that make people depressed, violent, drunk, or some combination of the three. This is all a result of the system.
We have not come here to discuss ideology. We have come to ask questions regarding a murder investigation.
It's not that any of this is wrong. These sorts of critiques do have value. I often agree with them. There are economic systems responsible for this particular situation. But do real humans actually think about their lives this way? Through polemics on political theory? Really? When I asked the working woman earlier if her husband was missing, she said no. Not because she knew where he was, but because it was normal for him to be missing. She had become completely numb to the uncertainty and anxiety. Depending on how you view the situation, it might be easy to consider her behavior careless or even strong in the face of adversity. I consider it human. It is, in my view, a very human impulse to make the best of a horrible situation. Husband or not, the bills still need paying, the kids still need raising, life still needs living. And this brutal yet beautiful truth of human nature hangs over all the encounters in Disco Elysium. It is the strongest through line of the entire game's narrative, so strong in fact that the leitmotif, the music of the working woman's apartment, returns during the climax of the game. And it makes sense that it comes back here, during a boat ride to the edge of the city where the starkest reminder of this same truth still waits. Harry and Kim do eventually get around to solving that murder. Their last and most promising lead brings them to an island off the coast of Kovac, an old fortification from the Revolution. Every hallway and annex of this place feels haunted by ghosts of the past, as if the building itself doesn't know the war is over. When Kim and Harry reach the end of it, they find the most haunting kind of ghost. One that's still alive. Here is an old man, alone on the edge of the world, clearly broken by the passage of time. He introduces himself as the political commissar of the 114th Anti-Aircraft Division of the 4th Army of the Commune of Kovac. He's also a self-described deserter, partisan, and prisoner of war. This guy is exactly the kind of person that René, the old soldier from the beginning, would have called communist scum. He's also the spitting image of René. Both of them are obsessed with the past. They've both grown bitter, entrenched in their ideals. One is the revolutionary without a revolution, the other the royalist without royalty. Initially, I was trying to get this man to confess to the murder, but soon I was deep in psychoanalysis with him. See, he doesn't hide his role in the murder. His resentment, his guilt, his complete and pathological refusal to accept that the war is over, all of it is on clear display. It's almost as if he's been waiting for this moment to make one last grand speech to his enemies so he can finally die with honor. Unlike the ravers, he feels that existence really is one grand political struggle, one to be fought until the bitter end.
Are they not heartbroken? How could they have moved on?
He's unrepentant, unbreakable in his dedication to his long-dead cause. I felt bad for him. Arresting him felt like the kindest thing I could have done. There was no shaking him out of his misery. It was the end of his life as he'd known it, and the end of my case. And then I saw the bug. The mythical bug. The Insulindian phasmid. The object of my apparently meaningless chase from so many hours ago. And the deserter, this old, jaded man so deeply entrenched in his own mind, breaks.
What is it?
Something is very wrong with him now. Nothing. There is nothing. Only the reeds for him.
A manifestation of the impossible appears right next to a man who has given up on the possible. And again, in this bizarre, world stakes irrelevant moment, I felt I could see this game. The point of Disco Elysium is not to solve the murder. It's to chase the bugs, to engage as deeply as one can with the world around you, to live and breathe Revachel's sacred and terrible air. Not as part of some political education curriculum, but to experience the fullness of life. The feeling that the phasmid conjures is not quite hope. The game doesn't end with some glorious revival of the revolution or some profound answer to all the world's problems. René, the royalist, dies by the end of the game, still unable to let go of the past long enough to love or be loved. The working-class woman will still have to raise her 2 kids without a father. The Pale will one day devour everything. And Harry, too, is still gripped by the sorrows that led him to erase his brain with alcohol in that trashed hotel room. But the existence of the phasmid suggests that there's a reward for trying to move on, that even in the darkest times, there is still life to experience. I know why I was chasing an imaginary bug on the beach. It's because I could find it. Before I played Disco Elysium, I was a little put off by its reputation. I'd heard great things about it, that it was this life-changing piece of media with tons of philosophical depth, but it was hard to really know where to begin. I'd heard of the dense lore and history, the political dialogues, the immense size of the game itself. From the outside, the world building seemed completely unapproachable. Once I got into it, though, boy, did that change fast. I'd honestly say that now, the world building might just be my favorite thing about it. Not just because of how vast it is, but because of the way it's introduced. You learn about Revachel through conversations with ordinary people, exploring bits of history through the weird objects you find rummaging around the pawn shop or the doomed commercial district, repeatedly insisting to everyone that your name is Raphael Ambrosius Cousteau, for some reason. Just engaging with world building as dense as Disco Elysium's can be daunting. It's hard to even imagine ever creating something like this. I, of course, can't tell you how to create something as complex as Revachel, but I do know a pretty good way to get started with your own world building. There's a series I really like called Creating Unique and Powerful Worlds, taught by many-time author and professor of fiction, Lincoln Michel. He does a great job explaining just how much world building can influence the rest of your writing, how it can shape your characters' personalities, the plot, even the themes of your story. It's surprising how much easier it all gets once you establish that initial ripple effect, as he puts it. For Michel, world building isn't just set dressing. It's where the story begins. And if you want to learn to write like that too, then I have good news. You can go watch the entire course for free with our sponsor, Skillshare. Look, I know you've probably heard creators mention Skillshare a million times before. You've probably even heard me mention it before, but I promise you that is not a conspiracy. For anyone who wants to learn a new skill, it is just an exceptionally accessible way to do that. They have a good mission and they deliver on it well. We wouldn't accept them as a sponsor if they didn't. Skillshare puts the skills you've always wanted to learn within arm's reach by empowering other creatives to teach you what they know. It's less of an educational app and more of a community. And because there are so many creatives on Skillshare, it's got courses on pretty much everything. Coding, music, cooking, business, photography, graphic design. Seriously, if there's a skill you want to learn, chances are someone's made a Skillshare course on it. The first 500 people who use our link will get Lincoln Michel's course and everything else Skillshare has to offer for free. 1 whole month of Skillshare. That's an awful lot of learning. If it's not for you, cancel and never pay a dime, but at least give it a shot. I really think you'll love this course. Again, click the link in the description to get started for free. One thing I love about humanity is your capacity to complicate things, to overthink, to turn an idea over and over in your head until you don't know which way is up anymore. But, I think that can also be a lot at times. It's so easy to get trapped in your own mind, to think so much about how things ought to be that you estrange yourself from how they are now. So consider this video and this part of Disco Elysium a little check on that. You can and should be full of big ideas, of course, but you should also live, too. Keep chasing bugs. And as always, keep making stuff up. Bye.